Welcome back, everyone. Marvel just released Captain America: Brave New World. There's a lot of Avengers Doomsday and future storylines in the post-credit scene, the ending of the movie that they set up, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. Really big spoiler warning because we will be talking about the ending of the movie. At the very end of the movie, Samuel Stearns, the leader, calculates that in order to complete his grand plan to destroy Thunderbolt Ross's legacy and get his revenge on him, he has to turn himself in to Captain America, knowing that he'll be thrown in the raft. But he basically sacrifices himself because it'll mean getting his revenge on Thunderbolt Ross. The way they visualize Leader's powers, or don't visualize them in the movie, his gamma powers, is that his massive brain from the comics allows him to see every single probability, kind of like Doctor Strange with the Time Stone in Avengers Infinity War, but the Leader can do that without an Infinity Stone. So he can't absolutely tell you exactly what's going to happen in the future. He can just say that this is 70% likely to happen, or this other outcome is 66% likely to happen. So sometimes things go down in ways that he doesn't expect, which happens with Captain America during the movie. He's able to surprise the Leader a couple times. We learned earlier in the movie that after the events of the Incredible Hulk movie, Thunderbolt Ross used the Leader to fix his heart condition because he was dying, dosed the Leader with even more gamma, making his mind even more powerful and turning him green the way that he looks here in the movie. Then he forced the Leader to use his mind to develop weapons and technology for the United States military and help Thunderbolt Ross become president with the promise of his eventual freedom, which Ross never delivered on even after he became president. The Leader reveals that around the events of Captain America Civil War, when he did start having his heart condition, like he did find out that he was about to die, and the Leader started making these special pills for him to help his heart, Leader saw that it was most likely that Ross would never let him go free, so he started to enact his plan to destroy Ross's legacy by turning him into Red Hulk, but doing it a very slow way using the pills dosed with gamma. So his long-term play was to basically cause Thunderbolt Ross to turn into Red Hulk, create a new World War Hulk type of scenario, destroying his legacy. He's mostly successful in his plan, like he leaks the audio of him and Ross earlier in the movie where Ross confesses to all the things the Leader claimed that he did, and leaks it to the national news agencies around the world, so the entire world, like the general public, knows everything that Thunderbolt Ross did. Everybody on the planet witnesses him transform into Red Hulk, smashing the hell out of the White House and almost starting a war with the Japanese over Tiamat in the Dead Celestial. That whole adamantium storyline where they found adamantium in its raw form on the Celestial just growing naturally doesn't really go anywhere in the movie other than they reference that it is a thing now and they're going to be sharing it amongst the world's nations. And at least in the MCU, they're saying that adamantium is stronger, better than vibranium. So I guess we'll have to wait till either Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars or like the X-Men movies after Secret Wars for them to pay off that storyline. But like we have adamantium in the MCU, it exists now. You can do whatever you want to with it now. Mostly I viewed that as a sort of long-term teaser for eventual Weapons Plus Weapon X in the new MCU version of Wolverine when Kevin Feige recasts a brand new younger version of Wolverine. Captain America is then able to talk no jutsu, Red Hulk, sun's getting real low style like we all predicted. I think everybody kind of knew it was going to end this way. He even references that there's no way he could actually beat him in a fight. Like you could smash me in a second flight, you would liquefy me. For those asking, he never actually gets the super soldier serum. He jokes about it during the movie too. I should have taken that serum. Bucky was full of crap because we get a Sebastian Stan cameo scene earlier in the movie. Bucky, turns out, is running to become a U.S. congressman, which he will have achieved by the events of the Thunderbolts movie. That's why he's in the congressional hearing with Val in that trailer, because he's U.S. congressman.
The Avengers are not coming. Who will keep the American people safe?
Bucky has now become a U.S. politician. Maybe someday they'll use that storyline to make him run for president. Imagine it, President Winter Soldier. Maybe that will be less of a disaster than Thunderbolt Ross Red Hulk president. But Captain America basically uses Betty Ross to get Red Hulk to chill out because that's his whole motivation in the movie is fixing his relationship with his daughter, Betty Ross, who hated him after the events of the Incredible Hulk movie and hasn't spoken to him since then. Their whole final fight takes place amongst these cherry blossoms that you see in the trailers, and they reference those cherry blossoms in Betty Ross more than 3 or 4 times in the movie, just so that you know by the time they end it, this is meant to be an important place for him and Betty Ross when she was younger. There's a whole lot of telling and not showing going on in the movie, which is usually a crime of a lot of movies. But as a result of all the secrets about Thunderbolt Ross that come out and the Red Hulk stuff that he does, he's forced to resign as US president. They never reference who his vice president was, but that person is now the acting president in present-day MCU heading into the Thunderbolts movie. Thunderbolt Ross is then arrested and thrown in the raft with the leader because he's permanently Red Hulk now, but he's happy to be here. He doesn't mind not being president. He went willingly, so he's really chill with it all generally. He only really cares about repairing his relationship with Betty Ross, who then shows up in that end scene. We get a little Liv Tyler Betty Ross cameo scene in the movie coming back from the Incredible Hulk film. And either they use some really good makeup or a little bit of special effects tuning, but it does not look like she aged a day. And that's pretty much the last you see of Red Hulk. He'll be back in the future movies though, probably Avengers Secret Wars, but we'll see. For those of you asking, because the movie kind of was like Incredible Hulk 2, did they reference Bruce Banner Hulk? Did he have a cameo scene? He did not. There were no Green Hulk cameo scenes in the movie, but they do reference Banner a couple times as part of the Betty Ross storyline. So they at least mention him a couple times. Sam Wilson then leaves the raft to check on Isaiah Bradley, who's now hanging out with Sabra, the former Black Widow, who was Thunderbolt Ross's head of security. Apparently she's just one of the bros now, they're all just hanging out. But I think this scene is mostly to remind you that Isaiah Bradley will keep coming back in the future Marvel movies in different ways. I think we'll probably see him at least during Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars, and they'll give him a cameo scene where he does something really badass, do some really cool takedowns like he does in this movie. Sam Wilson then jokes with Torres, who was injured earlier in the movie, about getting vibranium upgraded wings for his new Falcon suit because the old one was destroyed, and then implies that Torres is going to get to be on the new Avengers team, saying that the world needs the Avengers again, which is basically him saying that right after this, he's going to go about actually forming that new Avengers team that they referenced earlier in the movie when Thunderbolt Ross basically told him, hey, I want to put the new Avengers together, work with me.
Which is why I want you, Captain America, to help me rebuild the Avengers.
So a bit of a bummer that we don't actually get a bigger teaser for what the actual new roster is going to be for that Avengers team, but I think most people are on the same page that the surviving original Avengers will come back for that team and the other most powerful current people in the MCU. But the way that the producers of this movie are talking about it, we're talking about Kevin Feige, Nate Moore, like the people who are responsible for the development of the MCU movies, basically say that Sam Wilson is probably going to be the leader of that new Avengers team. They will not stop talking about how he's supposed to be at the center of a new Avengers team. That was kind of what they tried to do in this movie, is basically prove the point that Sam Wilson could be worthy of leading a new Avengers team. I don't know how successful they were in doing that. I feel like a lot of people will come out of this movie being like, wait, you want him to lead the new Avengers team? This is going to be weird. But at least that's what the movie is teasing. We will see if that sticks and Marvel continues with that idea in Avengers Doomsday. Marvel tends to change a lot of their plans, so it's possible that there'll be no one leader. There'll just be like a couple different people all calling the shots together in a more democratic kind of way. But also on the side of that, the Thunderbolts are supposed to be turning into their own version of a new Avengers team, but it's more of a dark Avengers vibe. That's why they're aping a lot of the Avengers movie scenes during that trailer. We'll find out what's going on with that when we get that movie in a couple months. We don't have to wait too long for that. There'll be some more Easter eggs in the next trailer too. Then they roll the end credits, and then the post-credit scene is basically Captain America at a later point, like after a little time jump, coming back to the raft a second time to visit the leader, who tells him about Robert Downey Jr., Dr. Doom's coming invasion of Earth from another universe during Avengers Doomsday in Secret Wars. He's basically teasing what will amount to both Avengers Doomsday, the Time Runs Out storyline, where a bunch of different universes go to war with each other, and then eventually Secret Wars. Sam Wilson tells the leader, I told you you were going to lose that bet. What he's referring to is that earlier in the movie when the leader was surrendering so that it would lead to his desired outcome of Thunderbolt Ross turning into Red Hulk, leader said that he was certain that Red Hulk would then kill him in that final fight, which he did not. So at the time, Anthony Mackie said, you won a bet, and now he's won the bet because he survived the fight. Then the leader responds chuckling, saying that this world that Captain America would die to protect, he says it's coming. He's seen Secret Wars and Doomsday events, Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom, other variants that he'll bring with him like Chris Evans' evil Captain America, other people from the multiverse coming to attack this version of Earth, the MCU version of Earth. He goes on to say, all you heroes protecting this world, you think you're the only ones. You think this is the only world. We'll see what happens when you have to protect this place from the others, as in protect this Earth from the other Earths, the other teams that will come to try and destroy you. Basically their version of a time runs out storyline, however that's going to look during the actual live-action MCU Avengers Doomsday movie. If you have not read the Time Runs Out storyline, it's basically the lead-up to the more recent version of Secret Wars. They're obviously going to be doing slightly different versions of things, the way that the live-action MCU movies change everything from the comics, but those big comic book storylines are really good indicators of some of the stuff they might be going for. Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom is basically going to be adapting some of the plot of what Doctor Doom does during Time Runs Out when he becomes God Emperor Doom eventually. When it actually comes to Bruce Banner Hulk, people asking where was he during this movie, what was going on with General Green Hulk, because they reference him so many times. There's so much Incredible Hulk in this movie, is basically the Incredible Hulk 2 without using that as the title. How can you do an Incredible Hulk 2 sequel without including Bruce Banner's Hulk? The last time we actually saw Bruce Banner Hulk in the MCU was in She-Hulk Episode 9 in that post-credit scene where he shows up from Sakaar with his son Scar, son of Hulk from the Planet Hulk comic. There are a number of deleted scenes in the movie and storylines. For instance, Amadeus Cho was supposed to appear in the movie, and the leader was supposed to be teasing this storyline where he sends Gamma to a bunch of other people around the world trying to create a World War Hulks scenario where there's multiple Hulks around the world that they'll have to deal with, like a really, really bad situation. If you followed any of the production woes that this movie has had, there have been a number of problems behind the scenes with them completely changing the storyline, doing a ton of reshoots. It sounds like this World War Hulk scenario that they wanted to set up, they just pushed off into the future. Like, too many storylines, too complicated, we need to make it way simpler. But that was still going on in the background, so I think all the Hulk-related stuff, talking about Bruce Banner and Scar, son of Hulk, is mostly meant to set up that World War Hulk's long-term plan that they have to pay off, but I think that'll be after Secret Wars. I think now they've just pushed that till after all the multiverse stuff is done. It's kind of hard to bring Bruce Banner Hulk back without also having his son with him too, so if you bring two Hulks back, that's just like a whole lot of story that you have to explain what's going on with them. So that's probably why they just waited to bring Bruce Banner Hulk back until Avengers Doomsday. Like, let's just wait a little while so we have to deal with that Hulk stuff right now. We'll explain what happened to his son later, and then later just turns into like 7 years later. Please, Marvel, don't let that wind up on your graveyard of post-credit scenes that ultimately lead nowhere and never get paid off. Looking at you, Kit Harington, Black Knight. Generally kind of felt like this movie was them wanting to make an Incredible Hulk sequel, but still not being able to actually do that because they had the problems with Universal in releasing Hulk solo movies. They can do Hulk TV shows just fine, but they can't do a movie where Hulk is in the title. They can only do other people's movies and just use Hulk-related storylines in that. Which I think is why this movie doesn't feel as singular as, say, like a solo Chris Evans Captain America movie, where there's a lot of stuff happening in those movies, but they still feel like they're centered around his character and his journey, his arc in the movie. And in this movie, it's a little bit more centered around Thunderbolt Ross's storyline with Betty Ross and with the leader. Like that the whole motivation in the movie for the villain is getting revenge on Thunderbolt Ross has nothing to do with Anthony Mackie's Captain America. So it just feels like a lot of the issues that this movie had were just on a general story level, like where they had a couple of different ideas that they tried to combine and it all just didn't quite work out the way they hoped it would. Hopefully by the time we get past Secret Wars in a couple years, they'll have fixed all their issues with Universal, they can release any Hulk solo movies that they want, and they'll do this World War Hulks movie and just pay off all these big Hulk storylines that they've been wanting to do for several years. One of the other notable missing things from the end of the movie is Giancarlo Esposito's character, Sidewinder from the Serpent Society. Last time we hear from him in the movie is when he's telling Sam Wilson's Captain America about the leader character in exchange for a low-security prison, which he says he will then escape from and come back to menace him in the future. So really the closest thing that they explain in the movie, if you're just going by the text of the actual film, is that he will just come back in future films and continue to be a villain to Sam Wilson's Captain America and potentially other MCU characters. They added his character at the last minute during the reshoots. It's one of the last things that they did, and they got rid of a couple other big characters and a couple other big storylines, which is why his character feels so thin and underdeveloped, but I guess he'll be back at some point. I know there's going to be a ton of other questions. I'll do a full breakdown and Easter eggs for the entire movie that should be up by Saturday, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. There have been a lot of Daredevil teasers recently. We should get a new trailer for that pretty soon and episodes in a couple weeks. Of course, I'll do all the videos for that just like I did for the original Netflix series back in the day. Everybody click here for that full breakdown and Easter eggs for the entire movie. That should be up by Saturday. I'll add the link as soon as I post that. And click here for my new Thunderbolts trailer with Sentry in the Void. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.